okay? Today is the 6th class, which means woohoo! We celebrate, okay? Because we're halfway through the course, and you have to celebrate these milestones, okay? So it's a time to be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing it, yeah? My consistency, my discipline, my presence, my attendance, yeah? I'm here, I'm doing it. So we're halfway, okay? And halfway to go. So this week is dedicated to vocabulary, which we have already been seeing. Yeah, every week when I send you material, I send you some pages of vocabulary.
For example,
but remember that my course is not basic, it's essential, okay?
Yes,
and there is a distinction. Yeah, there might be a couple of words or some words that for you, you're like, I don't need to know. And that's okay. But that will always happen in vocabulary contexts. Wherever you are, you're always going to hear words or learn words that maybe you're like, oh, I don't think I need that. I don't think I'm going to use that. But remember that you have two departments in your brain. You have this active department and the passive department. And color alimenticio or color alimentario, in Spanish, you know it, no? You know it.
Yes.
So if I say it, you know.
Yes, but I don't use that in normal cases.
Yeah.
I only use this when I make a cake or when I make a paella.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's true that maybe it's arguable that that's not essential vocabulary. But my vocabulary, what I call essential vocabulary, some of it you will see is the kind of vocabulary that babies and children learn. Because what happens with essential vocabulary is you get to a certain age and there are words you just know. If I say to you, even maybe food coloring, the word food coloring, if I say that to you and you're 12, 13, you know, and the kid's like, what's food coloring? You're like, really? Do you not know what food coloring is? Do you not know that food coloring is for coloring food? So also a really easy word, okay? So it's a word that shows you a little bit the mentality in English. We are very practical, you know? It is actually definable. If you look at like vocabulary as a huge ball, you're like, oh my God, it's overwhelming. I'm not going to give you a dictionary and be like, swallow the dictionary. No. But the active vocabulary of the individual is finite. You can learn it, you can absorb it. It's true that particular word that you have highlighted is in a list of cooking vocabulary, which I use with my students a lot because we cook. So we have these basics of, okay, you have a bowl, you have a spoon, you have the flour, you have the oil, the salt, the basic ingredients, yeah? And so food coloring's in there. But so maybe that one word, yeah, is not for you. But the other words are arguably essential, yeah? They are words that you should understand. And food coloring is to me, so obvious and easy that if you hear it, you're going to understand it anyway. But this is also something that is your responsibility. There is no perfect system. There is no perfect methodology. I think my methodology is pretty good, but it's not perfect. So if there is something in the methodology that you're like, it's not for me, there's no need to worry or waste time. Just, okay, I don't need that. You have to decide. You have to use your common sense. The same as when you're revising or reviewing material, if it seems very easy, you're like, I don't need that because I have that really, internalized. So it doesn't matter. But that means you advance very quickly, when you're going through it. And so the vocabulary, I think the vocabulary in this course is quite basic in general, yeah. But if you don't know it, it's not basic. That's like everything, no? People say, oh, that's easy. And it's only easy because you know how to do it. Everything is easy when you know it or when you know how to do it. And everything is hard when you don't know it or you don't understand it, okay? And there are some guidelines about learning vocabulary, which I always think should be common sense, but they're not always common sense, okay? Use it or lose it. It's the idea of, this is why I have the English for Life Club, which is another thing that I do. If you don't use English language or English vocabulary all the time, it might be easy until suddenly you're like, oh my God, I can't remember the word for spoon. Should be like super basic. but because you're not using it, it goes to this part of, you don't actually lose it. It's just that the connections in your brain become full of plants, you know? They become, it's like they're hard to access. If you use something every single day, in the memory, it's super quickly accessible, no? But if you haven't used it for a long time, it's like, it's there. It's like a path to your house. You know, if it's clean, you just walk, no? But if you let it overgrow with like weeds, malas hierbas, no, or weeds or bushes, it's going to be hard. Okay, so we have to find a practice of either looking at our vocabulary regularly, reading, listening to English is a perfect way of keeping vocabulary fresh. Okay, but this is where sometimes slightly more creative techniques can help you remember some vocabulary. And I'm going to share an anecdote with you. When a few years ago in this local, I had there was a problem with the wall outside. And so the community, they were fixing it, they were repairing it. And they had an andamio, okay, scaffolding. In English, scaffolding. You don't know that word, no? Exactly. But I know that word in Spanish, okay? I had scaffolding outside the local, like outside the door, literally. Like you open the door and it's like scaffolding for months, you know? For months and months and months. And I was like, ugh. And it was ugly and it was obstructing my academy. But I didn't know what it was called. And I said to someone, ¿Cómo se llama este aparato? Yeah? And they said, andamio. And I said, oh, how am I going to remember the word andamio? Because it's weird. Andamio? No? I'm like, I'm never going to use it very often. I'm not going to remember. It's very technical. But I was like, I want to remember. So I was like, anda, mío. Yeah, I like created a stupid, silly, mental film. Your visual memory is very strong. Yeah, we have a multimodal memory. We have a sense memory and an audio memory and an emotional memory and kinesthetic memory. But our visual memory is super strong. And if you create in your mind a film, yeah, why do we love films? It's really powerful. This visual movement, sound, emotion, yeah, especially if it's funny, if it's ridiculous, if it's naughty, si es travieso, if it's naughty, if it's sexy, if it's gory, it sticks in your memory more. So I was like, I imagine myself at the door being like, anda, mío, básicamente gritando al andamio que se vaya, yeah? And now I remember, okay? But there are two steps to the process, okay? One, you create the stupid film, okay? And the more elements, the better. If it's silly, if it's stupid, if it has sound, if it has emotion, if it has something crazy, better. And then two, repetition. Which, yeah, but like everyone goes straight to repetition, no? Like this is the one that everyone thinks of, like primary, no? Repetition. There are times when some words are going to be more difficult than others, okay? And this is not a perfect science, of course. Nothing is a perfect science. But this works. This absolutely works. And like you said, it's like a baby. And because babies, yeah, a story or a song, yeah, it's something that is like llamativo. It calls their attention. It's exciting. It's fun. It's funny. It's silly. Yeah.
The witch.
Yeah.
They only have
this is obvious. This is so obvious because even babies know this and children know this. And when we handle babies, we know this instinctively. And I'm sure people have told you this. But like everything, we don't always do the things that we know. It's like we know that if we don't exercise, we get out of shape. We know that if we eat badly, we're not healthy. We know that if we don't sleep, we get kind of crazy. It's like not brain science. It's not rocket science. We just have to remember and do it with patience and self-love. And these are all building blocks to these factors. Concentration, focus, patience, dedication. But mainly this emotional connection can really, what's the word? Like supercharge your learning. Because this is why we teach kids things that are fun. Because we know that if we capture their attention, it's easy. You know that if you're really interested in something, it's not hard to learn. You can take a boy who's maybe like 10, he's in school and he's really struggling to learn vocabulary or any facts that they want him to learn. He's like struggling and his results are bad. And then you ask that boy, ¿cómo se llama el jugador de este equipo de fútbol? And he knows every single one. He knows every name, first name and second name, and sometimes the wives and the children's names of every player in every team, in every league. Because the kid is like, there's no problem with his memory. It's this emotional connection, it's concentration, it's focus, it's engagement. Okay? So it's not about, and I've said it here, yeah? It's not about learning lists of vocabulary, but you have to have some strategy. You have to have some discipline, some engagement, some patience, okay? So we're just gonna do it, okay? That's enough. There are some more guidelines here, okay? But this is the best one. Another example. I was like, ¿cómo se llama esto en la espalda de las personas a veces? ¿No? Y me han dicho, eso es una chepa. I know that you have joroba as well, another word, no? But they said to me, chepa, and I was like, how am I going to remember chepa? But in my head, chepa, me suena como chapa de las botellas de cerveza. Y ahora, cuando yo veo una joroba, una chepa, veo una tortuga ninja de los mutantes esos de los dibujos animados con una chepa literal enorme de metal en su espalda. And that's my connection for that word. Another word that I rarely ever use. And my repetition is that I'm telling you now. And sometimes I tell other people. And I'm like, ooh, I know that word. Okay? If it's easy, it's easy. If it stands out and you're like, oh, I don't know, take some time. Write it in your book. Figure out a way to remember. Okay? Do one word a day. Don't try too much. If you try too much, you get nothing.